What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This here's Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does. And as you guys may well know, I live in Louisiana. Good old Southwest Louisiana. Lake Charles, baby. But I live in Louisiana, and in 2022, we had a red tsunami, if you will, come through, and we have a supermajority in our state house. We have over 2/3 of our state representatives are Republican. Then we hired a governor, a Republican governor. As a matter of fact, he was the Attorney General, Jeff Landry. He did a damn good job of prosecuting motherfuckers and getting criminals out of the state. So we have a supermajority, so naturally things are swinging conservative, and they are kind of looking good here in my state, and we are getting back on track because we had 8 freaking years of this incompetent leftist Democrat governor that just screwed the state up a lot, for goodness sakes. But we're getting back on track. They're repealing a lot of laws that was passed, and we are starting to get some movement, some traction, and we are gaining ground, and we are doing really, really good now in my state. And I came across this news article, and it's just amazing. I'm not sure how this is going to be taken. It'll probably get struck down in the courts. However, check this out. The 10 Commandments must be displayed in Louisiana classrooms under requirement signed into law. Holy crap. Okay, so this has been tried before in the past and keeps getting struck down by the Supreme Court because you're supposed to have separation of church and state. However, the argument under this is a pretty good argument, to be honest with you. Now, from a basic moral standpoint, looking at this, what is wrong with the 10 Commandments? Nothing. It's a baseline morality checklist, if you will, right? Like, thou shalt not kill, honor your mother and your father. Don't use God's name in vain, for God's sakes.
Whoopsies.
Things like that. Just basic moral standards and, common courtesy. Honor your mom and your dad, for goodness sakes. They're the ones that created you, raised you up to be the person that you are. They deserve a lot of respect, if you don't mind. You know what I'm saying. But the 10 Commandments, they are mostly viewed as a religious, like some cult crap or something like that. A lot of lefties and people that don't believe in religion just think it's just religious, right? Well, for as a matter of fact, most of the commandments are actually laws. Don't kill, don't steal, stuff like that. But, there's another aspect to it, but let's get into it. That's their argument. Check this out. Louisiana has become the first state to require that the 10 Commandments be displayed in every public classroom under a bill signed into law by Republican Governor Jeff Landry on Wednesday. The GOP drafted legislation mandates that a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments in large, easily readable font be required in all public classrooms from kindergarten to state-funded universities. Although the bill did not receive final approval from Landry, the time for the gubernatorial action to sign or veto the bill has lapsed. It means it's automatically passed, I guess. Opponents question the law's constitutionality, warning that lawsuits are likely to follow. Proponents say the purpose of the measure is not solely religious, but that it has historical significance. That is true. The Bible is an historical document, for goodness sakes. But, the Bible is much more than a historical document. It is basic instructions before leaving Earth. The Bible, for goodness sakes, right? Like this, it's a good moral guideline to live by, right? There's all kinds of moral stories in there. There's good stories, stories about good deeds done, stories about warning, maybe you shouldn't do this. There's a lot of analogy in the Bible. It's filled with analogy. It's filled with parables. So it's a lot more than just a religious book. You know what I'm saying? It's also an historical document. It actually documents a lot of stories from the past. You could put that into history. As a matter of fact, some colleges base a lot of historical classes on documents from the Bible, on stories from the Bible. So it's a lot more than just a religious handbook, if you will. It's a lot more than a pamphlet. And that's their argument, and it's a decent argument. However, the counter-argument from the ACLU and all these other separation of church and state organizations, their argument is not much better, to be honest with you. Like I said, it's a decent argument, but wait till you hear the counter-argument. It's Let's keep going, though. In the law's language, the Ten Commandments are described as foundational documents of our state and national government. That's also a good point. Our nation was founded upon the Bible. They were highly religious Christians that started this country, for goodness sakes. The Pledge of Allegiance talks about God in there. The Bill of Rights talks about God, that it's inalienable rights given to us by God. So it's a lot more than just religious zealotry, if you will, right? It's a lot more than that. There's actual substance there to say it's historical. It should be taught. But, that could be pushing it a little bit too far because it is highly religious and does base pretty much everything in it off of God, but everything in it doesn't necessarily relate to God, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of stories, a lot of historical recounting of situations that they tell in the Bible through that lens, right? From people that lived in those times. Of course, it's been translated several times, and you lose things in translation, which is why there's so many inconsistencies in the Bible, I believe, when they translate stuff from the old Hebrew or Arabic or whatever it was written in. I believe it was Hebrew, but I believe it was also written in different languages, to be honest. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong. But let's keep going. The displays, which will be paired with a 4-paragraph context statement describing how the Ten Commandments were a prominent part of the American public education for almost 3 centuries, which is true, must be in place in classrooms by the start of 2025. The posters would be paid for through donations. State funds will not be used to implement the mandate based on language in the legislation. Now that is curious to me, because what if nobody, which it'll probably happen, but what if nobody donates the money to print these 10 Commandments out? What are you going to do then, Jeff Landry? What are you going to do then, Louisiana? How are you going to implement this quote-unquote law? Are you going to find people in violation of the law if they don't have this? Right? Like, some teachers are religious and do have 10 commandments. Yeah, we live in the Bible Belt. A lot of people down here are Christians, for goodness sakes. But it's curious that there's no state funding for this. If you're going to make it a law, then shouldn't you have some state funding to at least allow these people to not be in violation of your law? Yeah, that kind of doesn't make any sense to me as far as that goes. But I do imagine that a lot of churches, because there are some big, rich churches out there, and, we could have a discussion on some of the corruption in the church, but there's a lot of churches out there that would love nothing more than to print a bunch of posters to put these in classrooms, and I imagine they will. But I can't see every single school in Louisiana getting funded enough to print these posters out to be in every single classroom. I don't know if that's going to be able to happen, right? And then you have some liberal cities in this state, right? You've got New Orleans is heavily liberal. You got Baton Rouge. They've got a lot of liberals too. Other than that, you got sprinkles of liberals here and there, but there's not a whole lot of liberals down here in Louisiana. But I do imagine that a lot of these liberal cities, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, they're not going to comply with this, right? And, you could outright say that a lot of other cities, parishes, they're not going to comply with this either, simply because of the separation of church and state is in the Constitution. The law also authorizes, but does not require, the display of the Mayflower Compact, the Declaration of Independence, and the Northwest Ordinance in K through 12 public schools. Not long after the governor signed the bill into law, civil rights groups and organizations that want to keep religion out of government promised to file a lawsuit challenging it. Here we go. Get ready for this one, you guys. The law prevents students from getting an equal education. Now, I looked into this, doing the research for this story. I kind of looked into this a little bit. I tried to go to their website and read as to why. They don't explain why. They don't say how students would not receive an equal education if there is a poster of the Ten Commandments in every single classroom in Louisiana. They don't explain that, and it boggles my mind, and I've racked my freaking brain trying to figure out how students can't get an equal education if there's a poster on the wall. These people make no sense. It just outright makes no sense whatsoever for them to oppose it based upon that. There's other reasons, but just based on that, that is the dumbest reason. Leave it to a liberal to come up with a very stupid reason and say, play the victim, if you will. Oh, they can't receive an equal education. What the hell do you mean? Shut your freaking trap right off. No, you can't use that argument. It's not only illogical, but it's stupid. It's outright dumb. And please explain how they can't get an equal education, for goodness sakes. I keep wanting to say equal opportunity. But how the hell can they not get an equal education? What difference is going to change about the curriculum now that this poster's on the wall? I would really love to know that. But they don't explain that. You can go to their website and look. They don't explain that whatsoever. They just try to play the victim and say, the church and state's supposed to be separated and they won't get an equal, blah, 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 equal opportunity. No, nothing about the curriculum is going to change. Nothing about their education is going to be unequivocal, if you will. But let's keep going. I don't want to harp on that forever, And we'll keep children who have different beliefs from feeling safe at schools. Here we go again with the dumb liberal mindset that, hey, oh my God, we got to put them in a safe space. Oh, they're going to be hurt somehow because a poster is on the wall. No, I'm sorry. Suck it up, Buttercup. It's a poster on the freaking wall. You don't have to abide by those 10 Commandments. You don't have to live by that, although it is a very good idea to do so, and you will be a much better person. But look, I understand we have a lot of Muslims in this country. We have a lot of Muslims in this state. But even still, they abide by the same 10 Commandments, for goodness sakes. Yeah, that comes from the Old Testament. That's not from the New Testament. So yes, Muslims abide by that as well. As a matter of fact, I don't know any popular religion in this country that doesn't, for goodness sakes. All the Christian religions do. Muslims do. And I know you got Buddhism and all this other stuff, but even still, I do believe Buddhists don't go around killing people. They don't go around stealing from people. They don't piss off their parents. They don't disrespect their parents. They may use God's name in vain, but because they don't care about God. But, the basic tenets of the 10 Commandments, if you will, is just basic moral characteristics that you should follow to be a good person. Has nothing to do with the religion. Even though it derives from the religion, it's still a good moral basis, a moral guideline, if you will, just to be a good person. Like I said, basic instructions before leaving Earth. The Bible is a good guideline. If you read and follow the tenets of the Bible, you will be a good person, for goodness sakes. Even if you're not religious, you can still read the Bible, gain knowledge from the Bible. Like I said, there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of analogies, parables, and all this other stuff in the Bible that have nothing to do with religion or God. Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of stories in there that is just stories of overcoming adversity and all this other BS, right? It's just a good book, and it's a historical document, and it's also the guideline to be a Christian or a Muslim. Because the first half of the Bible is the Quran. The American, feeling safe at schools, the American Civil Liberties Union, Americans United for Separation of Church and State, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation said in a joint statement Wednesday afternoon. And I imagine a lot of people laughed at that statement. That is a ridiculously stupid statement to make. Oh, they can't get an equal education. Oh my God!
Using magic to explain logical inconsistencies is tight. Yeah, it is.
Sorry. Even among those who may believe in some version of the Ten Commandments, the particular text that they adhere to can differ by religious denomination or tradition. The government should not be taking sides in this theological debate, the groups said. Similar bills requiring the Ten Commandments be displayed in classrooms have been proposed in other states, including Texas, Oklahoma, and Utah. However, with threats of legal battles over the constitutionality of such measures, no state besides Louisiana has had such success in making the bills law. Legal battles over the display of the Ten Commandments in classrooms are not new. In 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that a similar Kentucky law was unconstitutional and violated the Establishment Clause of the U.S. Constitution, which says Congress can make no law respecting an establishment of religion. The High Court found that the law had no secular purpose, but rather served a plainly religious purpose. Louisiana's controversial law in a state ensconced in the Bible Belt comes during a new era of conservative leadership in the state under Landry, who replaced two-term Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards in January. The GOP has a two-thirds supermajority in the legislature, and Republicans hold every statewide elected position, paving the way for lawmakers to push through a conservative agenda during the legislative session that concluded earlier this month. That is right. We are the deepest red you could possibly be right now. And guess who did that? Yeah, thank you, liberals, with your insane BS that you have going on in this country right now. Thank you, Democrats, for pushing states like Louisiana to become deep red, just completely red, right? Like, there's hardly any Democratic representatives in the state house right now. You got a few from New Orleans, and you got a couple from Baton Rouge. That's it. That is it. These people have went just off the rails insane and have pushed everybody to conservatism. Why? It's not that people are just moving to the right. No, that's not it. It's a selective small group of Democrats and leftists have just pushed the boundaries of what is left so far off. They've so far to the left that they have gone off the map, as it has been for a long time. And they are just way over here. So when they turn around and look at everybody else, they're like, everybody's an extreme right wing. That's why you're constantly hearing on the corporate press, oh, far right Matt Gaetz and far right this and far right that. Right wing extreme groups. No, these are just normal people. Yeah. Most people these days, from these people on the left, are considered far right. That's because they have left us in the dust, if you will. And we're just unwilling to move everything that fast, right? Like society is constantly moving to the left, constantly progressing, right? Like I say it all the time. You know, the progressives show society where to go, and the conservatives figure out how to get there, right? We've been moving to the left. We're constantly moving to the left, right? Like at one point, segregation was okay. Like, huh? Like that is abhorrent these days. Like you just know. I'm sorry. Well, I say that they're trying to bring it back in some places. Some of these extreme left-wing people. Oh, white is evil, so white people are bad. We don't want to stay in college dorms with white people. It's just, you know, that's just a small group of people, though, and they don't really matter, to be honest with you. But it's just getting outright crazy with these leftists, if you will. And I'm sorry. You know, I was never hardcore any certain direction. I didn't know I was conservative until a few years ago, right? Like I was raised up a Democrat. And then I haven't really changed my views that much. But now I'm far right, according to them. but I'm still the same person I've always been. But I am Christian, which you don't have to be conservative to be a Christian, but I do like our society the way it was not that long ago, and I wish we could go back to that, when we had honest discourse in this country, when we could sit down and have a debate and it not devolve into some insanity, name-calling BS, which almost every single debate these days seems to devolve into, right? Like, these leftists just go outright googly eyes and just start calling you, every single name under the sun because they run out of facts. We know that when you start name calling, you run out of your argument. You don't have any more argument to try to win the crowd over. Oh, now you're going to start name calling. You're going to start trying to impugn the character of the guy you're arguing with. So, that doesn't really work anymore because it's gotten so out of hand and everybody's a racist now. It's just getting outright ridiculous. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments section, because this one is kind of crazy, y'all. That's why I had to bring it to you via Legitical Response. But honestly, hey, I'm all for this. This is great. Whatever. I'm fine with it. I don't care. I don't care about separation of church and state on this matter, because it's the 10 Commandments. It's a good idea regardless if you're religious or not. Don't kill anybody, don't steal from people, don't piss off your parents. It's just a good idea, in other words, right? Outside of religion, it makes sense. But is this going to go through? Is this going to fly to the Supreme Court? It's probably going to go to the Supreme Court. So let me know what you think about the constitutionality of this, because I have some deep questions as to the constitutionality of this, and I don't really think it is constitutional. I think it's going to get struck down, to be honest with you. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.